Hey everyone. Okay, so now that we've taken all of our Law of Reciprocity photos, we are ready to start working in Lightroom and really making the correct edits, adjustments, and getting those exported. So this is going to be a couple of videos. The first video will be this video walking through setting up your Lightroom catalog. The second video will be exporting. So bear with me. I'm going to show you which program you need to make sure you have installed and what you're going to be using. So I'm going to exit out of this right here. And what you want to do is once you have Creative Cloud ready to go, the two programs that we need for our class are Adobe Photoshop, and the other one, very importantly, and the one that we'll be spending the most amount of time in, is Lightroom Classic. So you'll notice there is an option to download just regular Lightroom as opposed to the one that says Lightroom Classic. The reason why you want Lightroom Classic is because it manages larger file sizes and saves things to your actual hard drive, your external hard drive to your desktop, as opposed to saving things in the cloud. So you can kind of start to see how saving such a huge quantity of photographs from each of our shoots in our class could potentially cause issues getting all of that raw image file information all the way up into the cloud and back. So make sure that in Creative Cloud you have downloaded Adobe Lightroom Classic, and it should look like this. The next thing that we want to do is plug in your external hard drive if you've received yours from DePaul or if you have another one that you're working with temporarily. And we want to have our SD card plugged into the computer or plugged into some kind of card reader so that you're able to get the image files from the card to your drive. So what I'm going to do very first is go open up my Finder window, and I should have both my hard drive plugged in as well as my card. So both of these are here, and as always with a Mac computer, you'll need to hit that eject button next to either of those items once you're all wrapped up with them. So what I want to do is find my hard drive, and again, I've created that photo folder that we're working with for our class. And inside of that, I should have a folder called 2020, and within that folder I'm going to create a folder called 2020.09.15 Law of Reciprocity, because that's the date that I took those photos, and that's the date that's going to be mapped inside of the metadata that goes along with every single one of those really large raw photo files. So I want to make sure that that folder is inside of my 2020 photo folder. And what I'll do, I just went into detail view so you can see dating each of my shoots is going to be really helpful for me staying organized. And in the future, after this class, if you continue taking photos, which I hope you do, you want that file structure to be organized, and Lightroom will thank you for that as well. And you won't get those errors that say cannot find locate photo file, which is a super scary position to be in. So make sure your organization is ready to go. In that 2020.09.15 Law of Reciprocity folder, what I should have set up is a 1_images folder, and inside of that, I should have a raw photo folder. So it just says raw. That's where I'm going to dump all of my raw photo files from my card that I have plugged in. So from my desktop, if I click on my card folder, I can find the folder that says DCIM. Inside of that, I'll have another folder that I can open up, and inside of it are all of my raw photo files ready to go. So if I click on that very first file, I hold down my Shift key and scroll down to the bottom. While I'm holding down that Shift key, I click the very last one. It will actually select all of those files, which will allow me to drop them into that raw folder. The other way that I can do this is if I double click this folder, it will show me just those raw files. If I click that top image and then I go to Command A on a Mac, Control A on a PC, it will select all of those photo files for me, and so I can drag them into that raw folder. Now I already dragged them in, I do believe, so you should see all of my .cr2 files from my Canon camera right here ready to go. If you were photographing with a Nikon for this exercise, all of your photos will say .nef. All right, so now we're ready for the next step. I have my photo folder set up. I have my Law of Reciprocity folder set up. I am ready to go in Lightroom. So I am going to open that up. Cool. So I'm going to find Adobe Lightroom Classic, double click that, and it should pop up under my screen. It'll take just a minute to pull up. And if this is the first time you're opening it on your computer, it might prompt you with, is it okay if Lightroom accesses your pictures folder? You can say that's totally fine for right now. Essentially what Lightroom does is it creates a file directory either on your desktop or on your hard drive of all of the different previews that it creates on top of your photographs. So if you think about Lightroom, in fact, I'm going to close this down. If you think about Lightroom, it's kind of like when you put that raw file in there, instead of actually making adjustments to the raw file itself, Lightroom creates this sheen that sits on top of that photo, which is all of your edits, which is why we're able to batch process and edit so many photographs all at the same time, which is why Lightroom is such a vital professional tool for photographers. It is a non-destructive photo editing software. So when you make those edits to your pictures, unlike a Facetune app edit or unlike editing photos just on your phone, it does not change that original picture. And the way that it does that, and you're going to notice this when you open up your folder again afterwards, is that on top of every single one of your raw files, you're going to see another file called a .xmp, and that's that sheen sitting on top of your image. So if you're someone who likes to experiment with putting on makeup, having a little fun with it, I chose to wear red lipstick for this demo today. It's kind of like putting a little bit of makeup on your photos so they just sparkle and shine in a slightly different way than what they would if you see them raw. Some of you guys might have friends who are like, oh, I only shoot in RAW and I don't even edit my photos because they're so good in RAW. That's totally the wrong way to approach this. Every RAW photo has a high dynamic range, which makes it a really great candidate for doing the edits that we're about to pursue together. All right, so let's get started. I have Lightroom open here so you can see my whole window, and it's not going to do anything or know where to find our photos until we tell it exactly where to point. So in Lightroom, I'm going to go and get this started, but first I'm going to make my window a little bit bigger here so you can see exactly what I'm doing when I go up to the file menu here.